Rub-a-dub-dub, bitches, it's soap time. I'm Beware. Welcome to Soap, sort of a podcast. And with me today are my two co-hosts, Robbie and Hudson. How are you two doing?
I'm hanging in there.
I'm all right.
God, I came with all this energy, and you just, like, pure depression right off the bat.
Man, this guy says I'm hanging in there. He's barely, like, hanging on by his fingertips, and you're just like, wow. That's not the energy I require.
I pushed him off.
You just pushed him off the cliff, man.
Makes me think of that poster with the kitten, and it's like hang in there. It's in every office. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, we got a lot to talk about this time. What we're gonna try to do is each of us bring a particular topic, and we can discuss it, have fun with that, and then we also have one overlying overview type topic that we all really want to discuss.
All right, I can go first.
Okay.
All right, so this was something that we were gonna talk about for a while, and so I finally got a little bit of time to prepare. And so that topic is nuclear waste disposal. So nuclear waste, right? Basically, we have different materials that are radioactive, like certain isotopes of uranium, where they make nuclear reactions, and after the fuel is sort of spent to the point where it's not really useful anymore, it still emits deadly levels of radiation for thousands of years, and that's thousands of years, tens of thousands of years even, or sometimes even hundreds of thousands of years, but I'm not entirely sure. Thought I saw somebody say,
wouldn't it depend?
So it's 1,000 to 10,000 years. So
does it depend on the isotope, or is it?
Well, it depends on the isotope, and it depends on your definition of safe as well.
I like that,
because honestly, I really prefer RX-9, but I could see why RX-8 would be.
I hate you. Nobody's gonna get that joke.
I like
for us.
I like the definition of safe. Like there's like clearly like a European definition of safe, and then there's like a Russian definition of safe, which is like give it 5 minutes.
The Russian definition of safe is like if it not kill you when you drink it in the vodka, then it's okay.
What, you only grew
as
like
long as
three
we
heads,
don't have
man?
to deal
Come
with
on.
the irradiated vodka, we should be fine. What were you saying, Hudson?
Just sitting there like, I don't know, guys. I grew a second head, but I'm thinking like, really, I'm okay with 2 as long as I'm like still able to drink vodka with both. I'm like really.
We put
okay
limit
with
at 3 head.
it. 3 head is like a really bad, and we don't want to deal with that at all.
We all have a horrible Russian accent.
We do. Hudson's is more like yours is more like Jester from Critical Role.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
I made
Which is maybe not a bad thing. People like Jester.
I feel like it's
anyway,
caricature of a Russian accent as opposed to a Russian accent, and that's why I like it.
Oh, well, she said it was like Eastern European, just like vaguely Eastern European.
Yeah.
I think
I'm familiar.
Eastern European, you're allowed to just make any noises you want, because that's like what Tommy Wiseau sounds like. He's Eastern European, which just means like he talks like there's like various pieces of metal in his brain.
No, Lisa!
Oh, hi, Mark.
I did not hit her. I did not.
We are like so far off. Okay, explain to me.
All right.
Hostile nuclear architecture.
Well, I was getting to that. You're stealing my thunder here. Because it's not just the architecture. The architecture is one part of it. So all of the nuclear waste in the world is actually not permanently stored right now. All of them are in various levels of temporary storage until we can sort of figure out a quote unquote permanent method of storage. First of all, how likely is it that it's going to get disturbed over the next 10,000 years through natural processes or through man-made processes? And then the other question that they had to ask is, how are they going to have some sort of message indicating that what is stored here is very dangerous for 10,000 years. And if you think about it, I think 10,000 years ago was even before like, ancient Greece or like ancient Egypt.
I believe prehistory goes back to like what 5,000 BC, and then before that, we don't have like
right.
history.
Right. So we don't even like know what was going on like 10,000 years ago. And so
my guess, lots of like rice and boats.
yeah. And if you have the most rice, then that makes you the king.
Which is pretty sick. I think we should bring that back.
My God.
I have a lot of rice in my refrigerator right now.
That's exactly my point.
I ate the last of my rice today.
God, you think rice was like crypto? You think they came out with like a new rice every week?
All right. Listen here. This is special rice that is unique, and I'm selling this grain of rice for 10,000 normal rice.
Invest in Dogegrain.
Dogegrain. God. I can't believe that anyone listens to us talk.
Oh.
They probably don't.
Okay, so 10,000 years is a really long time.
Yeah, 10,000 years is a really long time. The oldest existing institution today, so it's like the Catholic Church, which is like 2,000 years old, which is like 1/5 of the amount of time that you would need to preserve the message for. And so the question is, how are we going to tell future generations that this is dangerous? So the idea is that above ground, there would be some gigantic structure of some kind that would be very foreboding. Inside the structure, there would be rooms that would have messages like this of varying degrees of, they would get more detailed as you got closer to the center until there was a very, very long message that I'm not going to read that basically explains in detail the idea of like nuclear waste.
Was this designed by an engineer or a dungeon master? Because
I was gonna
just sounds like some really cool fantasy shit.
It sounds like they hired like drama majors to do this instead of like actual scientists.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, this is like a real thing that has like the ability to kill people, thousands of years in the future. So you need to convey the danger. I feel like you're not taking this seriously.
Okay, I have a significantly better idea than all of this, but I want to get to the craziest of ideas because they're very interesting.
Yes. They have another idea too. So I mentioned previously that above ground there would be some sort of gigantic structure that would, contain the messages. And so this gigantic structure would have to be some sort of hostile architecture of some kind. The idea is to convey aesthetically that this is not a safe place, that this is dangerous and that it should be avoided. The Great Pyramids, for example, were a tomb. And when we saw the Great Pyramids, we tried to blast our way in.
Oh yeah, I'm busting right inside that. Yeah.
So this was actually something that they talk about in the report, which is note our use of irregular geometries and the denial of craftsmanship. So a common theme for all of these is that they aren't very pretty. None of them use any sort of like perfect like shapes or anything like that. None of our designs use any of the regular or ideal geometric forms, and only crude craftsmanship is sought, except for the precision of engraved messages. Why? The geometry of ideal forms like squares and cubes, circles and spheres, triangles and pyramids is a fundamental human invention, a seeking of perfection in an imperfect world. Historically, people have used these ideal forms in places that embody their aspirations and ideals. In our designs, there is much irregularity, both of forms and in their locations and directions, yet done by people with obvious knowledge of pure geometry. This shows an understanding of the ideal, but at the same time a deliberate shunning of it, suggesting that we do not value this place and that is not one that embodies our ideals. The same is true of craft and workmanship. Historically, people use good workmanship to bestow value on things they value. In most of our schemes, the structures that cover, define the keep's cover are made crudely or of materials that prohibit workmanship, such as rubble or earthworks or a large slab. At the same time, we make an enormous investment of labor in these rude materials. It speaks of a massive investment, but not one tinged with pride or honored with value through workmanship.
Okay.
like the reaction when you first saw the spiked one, which is probably the most realistic one. It's just like you don't want to go there.
The spikes one just looks like dangerous, especially if they're really big. But okay, so the black hole, I will admit, one sounds raw as hell. It sounds really cool, but also I would not want to go anywhere near it. So I think that one might work.
Mm. So the standard is like whether or not you would want to.
Some of these are they're intriguing.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we don't know who made Stonehenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we love that shit. And white people go to Stonehenge. Fucking, you know what I mean? Like everybody just goes to Stonehenge.
So that's the thing is that so I think the idea here is to ideally keep people away, but if it fails, which it probably will, to completely keep people away, if people explore it, they will find out enough information about the threat of the nuclear waste that they will not disturb it. That's the idea. So before that, the Human Interference Task Force, which in typical well, this would be like 60s, but in typical group of scientists fashion, they came up with some interesting approaches to preserve the idea of the dangers of nuclear waste forever. First one is the linguist Thomas Seebach, who proposed the creation of an atomic priesthood. And so the idea here is that, well, the oldest institution still surviving is the Catholic Church. And so what if we make a similar institution which has these rituals and hierarchies that basically preserve the message of the danger of nuclear waste? The approach, these are critical problems with the approach.
I like that it lists the problems before it lists the strengths.
The priesthood would indicate off-limits areas and consequences of disobedience. So this is what Wikipedia says. This approach has a number of critical problems. An atomic priesthood would gain political influence based on the contingencies that it would oversee. This system of information favors the creation of hierarchies. This message could be split into independent parts. Information about waste sites would grant power to a privileged class. People from outside this group might attempt to seize this information by force.
Okay, with that one, it's like I think they sort of missed the forest for the trees there. You know what I mean? Like they saw, okay, what's the oldest institution? It's a church. Okay, we're just gonna make this a religion. And they didn't think, well, okay, are people willing to die for this? No. Will their whole lives revolve around warning people to not go to this one place? Probably not. Oh, maybe it's not a religion.
Well, maybe you gotta add or just like ask the Catholic Church to like just add some like unrelated sacraments that aren't actually related to Christianity, but it's just like during mass in addition to like communion and stuff, you also like repeat like the chant that warns against nuclear waste or something like that.
It's like, and also with you, and also don't go to New Mexico.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, I gotcha.
Stanislaw Lem, science fiction author, proposed the creation of artificial satellites that would transmit information from their orbit to Earth for millennia. He also described a biological coding of DNA in a mathematical sense, which would reproduce itself automatically. Information plants would only grow near a terminal storage site and would inform humans about the dangers. So basically, we would genetically engineer these plants that would contain information in their DNA about nuclear waste, and those plants would only grow near nuclear waste disposal sites. And somehow, this hypothetical human civilization or alien civilization would be advanced enough to be able to sequence and decode the DNA of a plant, but not realize that there's nuclear waste stored somewhere.
Okay, so this is getting into my primary problem with all of these, which is you want something that's clearly man-made, conveys danger, okay, also conveys that there's nothing valuable here. Here's a great idea. a fucking sign with words on it. And before you say, oh, it was gonna be 10,000 years. Okay, you know how much a sign costs? Update it once every 50 years. Set a reminder on your iPhone. We have those. Like, this is so stupid. All of this, let's genetically engineer a plant to say,
I
hey,
haven't even said my favorite one
let's
yet.
make a black hole in the middle of the desert. Just make a road sign. Oh my god. I know is it the cat one?
Yeah.
It's the cat. Okay,
You're totally just stealing my thunder today.
I didn't say what the cat one was.
All right,
I've been holding it
so
in.
This is my favorite one.
I'm actually very curious to see this one because this one I know.
Oh, you
about.
are? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Hudson already knows this one. French author Francois Bastide, whatever, in Paulo Fabri proposed the breeding of so-called radiation cats. Why they didn't consider dogs, I don't know. These radiation cats would change significantly in color when they come near radioactive emissions and serve as living indicators of danger. So notice that they don't actually include details on how you would do this, but whatever. In order to transport the message, the importance of the cats would need to be set in the collective awareness through fairy tales and myths. Those fairy tales and myths in turn could be transmitted through poetry, music, and painting. The story of this original project was depicted in the 2016 documentary The Ray Cat Solution. And there's a song about this.
Oh,
I hate this so much.
So there was this artist named Emperor X who made this song called 10,000 Year Earworm to discourage settlement near nuclear waste repositories. And I sent the link we can at least listen to it.
I think since we can't play it, Robbie, could you sing just the first two lines? I think that would.
Do you want me to get my guitar? I can like play it.
Yes, please
right,
do that right now. Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is 10,000 Year Earworm to discourage settlement near nuclear waste repositories, or Don't Change Color Kitty. Don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, stay that pretty gray. Don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, keep sickness away. Don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, please, cause if you do, the glow your luminescent eyes, we're all gonna have to move. Don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, stay that pretty gold. Don't change color kitty, keep your color kitty, or we'll keep you from the cold. Don't change color kitty, keep your color, cause we need you around. But the minute that you change your looks, we're bringing you with us out of town.
Woo!
There's more of this, but we're done.
I really like how audacious, like the audacity to assume that, oh yeah, this horrible song I wrote will be popular
Here we go.
for
Don't
10
change
millennia.
this had to be a meme. There's no actual way he thought it would do that.
So how are you familiar with this person before hearing about this?
I punched in hostile nuclear architecture to just look at the first thing that came up and recite the first intelligent sounding thing the first time I was asked anything. And that was the one I saw. And I was like, this doesn't sound intelligent at all. But if he doesn't recite it, I'm definitely going to come in here like, well, I don't know if you're familiar with the works of the renowned Paulo Fabri, but according to him, I think that
Oh my
X.
God.
But as it turns out, Robbie knows everything.
Well, I wouldn't put it past you, honestly. So,
Mikey, what are your thoughts on all of this, if it's time for that?
You already said just put up a fucking sign. Here's the thing. If in the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
there was a imperial decree to put up a sign and update it every 50 years.
Yeah.
How would we know about that today?
Okay, a couple things. Number one, when the Roman Empire fell,
Yes.
there were still Romans around, right?
Right.
Okay. How do we still have the language Latin?
Well, because people continued to speak. Okay. So going farther back, what about some Mesopotamian like Babylon or some shit.
Back then, they did not have the reminders app on their iPhone, and we have that now.
Even if they did, institutions don't last.
Okay, the only way that this would be even remotely relevant is if society as a whole collapsed. That's what has to happen, because we have the internet now. Everything is recorded.
Yeah.
All languages
Yeah.
are recorded.
Yeah.
So not only would like society and all people and culture have to stop, but also we would have to lose access. All libraries would have to burn down.
That's basically what happened when the Roman Empire fell.
Right. Okay.
Or like the burning of the library of Alexandria.
Yeah, there was one library. Now there are millions across the whole. That's my point. This is so stupid. It was clearly thought up. Like, dude, wouldn't it be cool if your cat turned yellow?
So to be fair, this was all thought up before the internet was really a thing. But I mean, even with the internet, you know, we could. This is actually something that people talk about in.
Okay, but my point is, you would have to have a worldwide cataclysmic event.
No.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't.
Wait. You would need to have a worldwide cataclysmic event for all of the current languages to stop being relevant, so no one can carry on this very simple task of updating a sign every decade.
Okay, it's not.
And you need the internet to go away. Those are like a lot of like. At that point, the world would be so screwed that like everywhere would be hell, not just this one point in New Mexico or wherever.
Well, okay, so yes, everywhere would be screwed, but this place would be screwed for, 10,000 years.
If you put a sign up, they'll know. I'm serious. I sound jovial because it's a very simple answer, but if you put a sign up that everybody can understand, it's likely they'll be able to still read it in 100 years, unless something crazy happens.
Okay.
They can update it in 100 years, we're fine. Just do that.
Yeah, but...
Hudson, do you have any input here?
Well, firstly, I think I am now inspired to like run a D&D campaign in this type of setting, where a party runs an adventure into this kind of thing, because it's
it is
so
a really cool
fucking
idea.
cool.
Like it is a very, very cool idea. Okay, so okay, go ahead.
I wonder if the things that have to happen and the number of concerns we have and the number of very smart people required to come up with a solution that is for sure going to be effective, I think there are a lot bigger problems to solve, like making sure society doesn't collapse in the first place. And that's a bit more of the solution I'd rather take. Like, I don't even know if planet Earth will be habitable in 10,000 years. I'd rather solve that problem first.
Okay, yeah, but you're treating it like it's a zero-sum game. Like, the amount of effort that it takes to, stop climate change is like infinitely more than, the amount of effort that went into like that one, 1993 report that outlined these different methods.
And I would argue that 1993 report was infinitely more effort than building a sign. I don't see why the sign doesn't work. I honestly don't get it.
Okay. So basically your argument is this sort of like inductive argument of sign building, right? You're doing basically what you're saying is base case. The sign is readable now. All right?
Yes.
In inductive hypothesis, at year K, the sign is readable. Induction step. In 10 years, the sign will still be readable.
Mm-hmm.
In 100 years, the sign will be readable, but the language will be slightly antiquated, so we update the sign.
Yeah.
Therefore, the sign will be readable forever.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that if at some point we forget to update the sign in 100 years, then now it's going to be 200 years until the sign is updated. And then we're probably going to forget again.
Don't forget.
We're constantly finding shit. This is why archaeology exists as a field, is that we're constantly finding shit that we just built and then forgot about as the human race for thousands and thousands of years. And we were trying to like figure out what it was. And that's because the sort of continuity of human history is not as continuous as you're making it out to be.
Okay, but that was before we had satellites and the whole world was connected. The world is
Right.
like I can talk to someone from China right now.
Yeah.
You're talking about a period in time where humanity was sparse. Nobody knew that the world was any bigger than 100 miles around them. Right? Like, obviously, if your little tribe dies out, nobody's going to know what your tribe was doing. We're talking about these huge international projects. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. You're
so-
treating it like we're gonna be put back in like 4000 BC.
Yeah, and we might. And if there's some sort of like, full scale nuclear exchange that kills 90% of the population, then we probably want to have something in place in our like nuclear waste repositories so that in 10,000 years, once human society rebuilds and the internet and everything has been destroyed, once human society comes back around in 10,000 years, they'll know to like avoid this place because the stuff is still going to be dangerous.
Going back to the point you made about, it's two things. One, it's sort of relating to the sign, but also relating to it's not that much effort. So the solution of building a structure that communicates don't go in here and has, I guess, written language in there to suggest that it's bad. Firstly, I think like that's more of my point of there's so many other things I'd rather solve because it would take so much effort to build something like that. Like it's not that much effort to write a 1993 article. It's a ton of effort to build that kind of structure.
Think it's a ton of effort to build
and
it.
two, I don't really see I honestly like maybe this is because I grew up in like around Flint and like most people around the Detroit area have this sort of collective fascination with urban decay. I'd want to explore almost every single one of those. Like I would want to look at those. And I think the idea of like, well, there's written stuff inside of them that would dissuade you. 10,000 years, how do we know the written stuff inside of them is even going to, still be around in the same method of the sign? So it just feels like building a gigantic structure isn't going to dissuade a ton of people and seems like a not worthwhile step.
I mean, I think that it would only require, it would require as much effort as it takes to build a museum, and people build museums all the time. The possibility still exists that people will see the warnings and either not be able to decipher them, or the idea that they wouldn't be able to decipher them is kind of difficult because, like, in addition to the written warnings, there's also like pictographs like showing like physically like a depiction of like nuclear waste or nuclear danger and stuff like that. But in addition to that, even if people just don't care, then it's like, okay, but at least you've like lowered the probability. I feel like you're saying that just because you can't reduce the probability that somebody would get hurt to zero, that it's not worth doing.
I don't think that's it at all. This architecture has the potential to draw people in. That's what we're saying. Like, a lot of that shit looks cool.
Yeah,
and I would want to explore
cool.
it. So you have something happens and they in the future they can't read any of our languages. Right. It all looks like ancient runes. Okay? You have a sign with some runes on it they can't read anymore. Mm-hmm. Or a giant temple with runes on it that they can't read anymore.
With runes on, in addition to runes on it, they're like pictographs, like showing like,
what reason can you not put pictographs on a sign?
You can put there are signs there too. The sign is important, but the important thing is to make the sign in a way that it communicates the danger even if you don't replace it every 100 years.
And what I think we're both saying is that those structures are going to it's going to do the opposite of the intended effect. I think we can all agree that the cat song is the best option. I don't think we're going to agree on this. I think you should just put a sign up. That's what I think.
I mean, realistically, that's probably what's going to happen because people don't like to do cool things.
So, Mikey.
Right. So,
what's your point? What do you want to talk about?
I know Robbie has. I don't know about you, Hudson, but there was a period in my life where I was obsessed with creepypastas, internet horror stories. It was primarily in high school, and I'd go through phases where like a month at a time I would just watch scary shit. And I think it's funny in retrospect. I get those sort of like, I get in a groove like that for maybe 2 days now, and it'll be once every couple months. But there was a point in time where like I would just spend huge swaths of my time watching and reading scary stories. And I remember the way I like got into it. I discovered them was 7th or 8th grade. We had a study hall, and this one kid, he showed me this video, and it was about Slenderman. Okay, and it was clips from, I think there might have been a couple Marble Hornets clips. There were clips from the video game, and I remember the music. It was from that one movie, Requiem for a Dream.
Oh my god. Wait, the da-na-na-na-na-na.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
That is so. Was that like 2009 or?
Well, this was middle school, so probably
2010, 2011.
yeah.
That's very 2010, 2011.
Yeah, right around then, yeah. And so that, first of all, that song gave me nightmares.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, am I freaking you out by singing the song?
Not anymore. No, I've basically, I got obsessed with Slenderman first, and then eventually into all the creepypastas. My obsession with Slenderman ended in 2 ways. One, I had a computer class in 7th grade, and we were supposed to be like building these really shitty HTML websites, and I wasn't doing that. And the way that I did not know this at the time, but our computer teacher, whose name I forget, she could see everybody's screens. And so everybody was doing whatever they were doing, and she was like, Mikey, Slenderman pics? Because that is what I was Googling. So that was one of the most embarrassing moments.
Did everybody else know what Slenderman was?
No.
Oh shit.
Some of them did, but not all of them.
Oh no. Oh no.
So I stopped looking. That quickly ended my obsession, but it did not end my fear. But
so instead of Slenderman pics, it was Slenderman pics.
Well, see, now if that's what most of the class thought I was looking up, right? Which is like not the same thing. And when you're in 7th grade, it's like, guys, I'm not gay. Please, I need you to know this. It's a horror story. Yeah, so that was what made me stop that. But I was still horribly frightened because where I lived, there were a good amount of trees, right? And a lot of the pictures and stories of Slenderman, he's very skinny. He blends in with the trees. And so, like, any tree you see might actually be him. He's going to stick his hand in your window and eat you or whatever. And so I was really terrified of Slenderman, like, being outside my house. But I was at that age, like 12 or 13, where you can't tell your mom, hey, I'm scared, for 2 reasons. 1, you're a little too old for that, and it would be embarrassing. And 2, she would just be like, well, stop fucking, you're not allowed to look at it on the computer anymore. And it's like, I can't have that. I can't ever take away my Slenderman pics privileges, right? So I didn't know my parents that I was like, having nightmares about Slenderman. So I had to fabricate a way to stop being afraid of Slenderman, and in turn, like, all, the dark monsters, whatever. And I was about 12 at this time. And so the way my brain figured it out, and the way I learned to deal with scary monsters and stuff is I rationalized in my brain. Okay. Slenderman is fictional. He's not real. You know what else is fictional? Superman and Goku. So they're also here, and they're gonna kill Slenderman if he gets anywhere near me. And that is how I rationalized it.
That.
And I.
If you could see the face that Hudson is making right now.
Are you fucking kidding me? Not God, not the Virgin Mary.
No gods,
fucking
no saints,
Superman?
nothing like that. I think it was probably Superman, Goku. There was probably some Digimon in there. I don't really remember. And I remember I drew a picture of like, I think it was Goku, and he was like, he could fly, and Slederman can't fly, so he was like choking him, and he was flying, and I'm
My
like,
God.
I did it. I beat my fears. And so, you know, if I now that I'm 23, if I ever hear something strange in my apartment, I'm like, I'm not worried. Naruto's got it. I'm good.
Holy shit.
Oh,
And so I
man.
wanted to tell that story because I found it was funny. But I also know that, Robbie, you have a rather I don't know, extensive is the right word, but like,
I don't think it's extensive.
but like you're familiar with creepypastas
Yeah.
and specifically Marble Hornets.
Well, I was a really big Marble Hornets fan in high school. And not only Marble Hornets, but like the people who made it, they were like this, like Marble Hornets is like a YouTube ARG, so it's not quite the same thing as like a creepypasta. So I don't know if we want to talk about that or we want to like strictly keep it in the realm of creepypastas.
Well, what I specifically wanted to know is, do you have any standout really good or really bad? And it doesn't have to be creepypastas, it could be scary videos or whatever.
All right, I'll start the conversation by talking about Smile Dog. So I don't know, Hudson, do you know about Smile Dog?
No.
I know you do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I've ever read whatever story is related to it, but I've definitely seen the picture.
So that's the thing, is that Smile Dog, I think it is particularly well suited for this because it's basically the idea of like, what if a meme could make you go crazy, essentially. So it's this picture of a dog. And looking back on this, it's like so clear that this is like completely made up, and I don't know why it like freaked me out so much. But it's the main thing is because the picture itself. So the picture itself is this like Polaroid photo of like a husky, and it's like looking at the camera, like looking straight at the camera, and it's like in this like dark background. I think it's like on the front porch of a house or something, and it's like smiling at you, but it has like a human smile, and it's like really weird looking. And so I think one of the things that makes it so compelling is that when you look at the picture for the first time, it's like kind of uncomfortable to look at. And then it's like, warning, looking at this picture might cause you to feel uncomfortable. And it's like, oh shit, it's working, you know? And there are a couple of variations. Like there's one that's like it's like a skull dog, and it's like really creepy, but that's like not the real one. And so the idea, the creepypasta is basically like this short story about this guy who's like a private investigator. And this guy calls him and he's like, help, my wife is like having these nightmares about this like dog. And the idea is that when you see the image, you'll start to get these nightmares every night where Smile Dog will like terrorize you, and then it'll say like spread the word, I think. and then the only way to make the nightmares stop is to show the picture to somebody else, and then they will, you know, it sort of passes the bug on to them. Basically, he like tries to look more into the, you know, origins of the picture, and apparently it started on this like, you know, message board back in like the early days of the internet. And so this is one of the other things that sort of lends credibility in the story. Like I think the wife like eventually like kills herself or something because she doesn't want to like pass it on, but then somebody sends him an email with the picture, and so it's like,
oh, you thought you were
it's
safe,
like,
and
yeah,
oh
yeah,
no, yeah, okay.
I don't think it like completely terrorized me, but it was kind of creepy. And I think I had like one or two, like they weren't like nightmares, but they were like the picture was in the dream, and it was like really like uncomfortable to look at or something like that. So I don't think it like terrorized me, but yeah, it was really interesting. So the thing is that it's interesting because I think it's particularly well suited to the internet, because the internet is so efficient at like transmitting ideas. So it's this idea that like, it's this idea of like an information hazard. Like there's a piece of information that like, if you see this picture, then you're in danger. Or like if you hear it, it's like the Lavender Town thing too. The Lavender Town thing is another example of this, where if you hear this piece of music, then it'll like fuck you up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like it's a virus, and the internet is the ultimate transmitter.
Yeah, it's a mental virus, like memetic.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The worst example of this is Rocco's Basilisk, which is dumb. And maybe in a future episode I can talk about why I think Rocco's Basilisk is really stupid. But yeah.
I did not follow most of the creepypasta phase. I happened to accidentally on the internet stumble upon 3 short films. It was a video about a bunch of military people performing an op on a cult. and it turned out it was an SCP.
Oh, cool.
I am not actually familiar with this.
So I think the idea of SCP is that there's these various
Anomalous
objects, people, things that are anomalies, and so it's like SCP-1 is this anomaly, SCP-2, and it's like been militarized, and they have special people to deal with it. So it follows a group of people that are specialized to deal with the occult, if you will, these anomalies as they go into an area.
We should definitely spend an entire episode talking about SCP.
Yeah, I did not know what it was, and so I just thought it was like a military operation.
Okay.
And it's like a bunch of military guys handling the occult, and it's interesting and scary because they handle it very well and very calmly. So when things get bad, it's
So when
really
you were
bad.
watching it, did you think it was real, or did you knew it was?
I just thought it was a movie.
Oh, okay.
I knew it was a movie. I just assumed it was a movie about military guys. I knew it was like horror oriented or adjacent, but I didn't know why. And it turned out to be like very Cthulhu-esque.
Ah, okay.
Like one of the guys just sees something and immediately shoots himself.
Oh, yeah. So I wonder you don't know what number SCP that was?
It's called SCP Overlord is the short film. It's
Overlord.
got a lot of it's a full on movie. It's a short film. It's like 30 minutes long.
Okay.
So that's the only really I know SCPs are a type of creepypasta. This is a movie based on those. So it'd be like a movie based on Smile Dog. It's the closest I got to a creepypasta. I think it was actually fairly cool though.
No, I think
like the military
it's good you brought those up because we should definitely talk about SCPs on an episode because there's like 3,000 by now. Like there's a lot, and some are insanely fascinating, like really interesting. We could do a whole episode on SCP-1 just because it's so interesting. But before we move on to our next topic, there's one last thing in this sort of area I would like to talk about, and that is terrible, horrible creepypastas.
Yes.
Which
horrible creepypasta.
Which are arguably
we should all read one.
Arguably the best.
Yes.
And most entertaining. So the reason that they're horrible is because they're comprised entirely of tropes. Clearly they're written by like 12-year-olds and they're trying to be scary, and they're never scary. They're always just hilarious. And so the most common that people like, and Robbie and I like to joke about these all the time, is the video game one. So they're either based on Lavender Town or Ben Drowned or something like that. And the gist
are you not talking about horrible troll pasta? Because that's like a subset of creepypasta.
No, I'm not talking about ones that are purposely bad.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sure the ones that are purposely bad got their tropes from these ones that were just
I want to read a
accidentally
couple,
bad.
but continue.
Okay. I'm going to hit a couple tropes when I do this, but they're all the exact same. It's, I'm a regular college student and I live alone, or I have one roommate and he's not around that much. So there you go. He's alone most of the story. And it's like, I found a mysterious stranger who was having a garage sale and they were selling just one video game and nothing else. And the label was ripped off. Ooh. And then I bought it from him. And when I went home and I said I told my mom I bought it from him, she was like, but he died 10 years ago. It's always something like that. And then when they play the game, it's always the same thing. They put the game in, and then the character acts weird. Something kills the character that they're playing.
The graphics are hyper realistic and blood eye.
Yes, yes. The graphics are always become hyper realistic, and the screen actually starts bleeding. It's always the exact same thing every time, and they get so blown out of proportion that they're ridiculously comical. I think Robbie's going to read one for us. You've never
I was
read
looking
any
for
of these,
horrible
Hudson.
troll pasta, which is a bit different, but would you call Ben Drowned an example of this done poorly, or
Ben Drowned originated that.
Oh, okay.
It was like Ben
Okay.
Drowned was the original that all of the copies copied.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've never read one of these horrible ones, Hudson?
Nope, never heard of it.
No. Okay.
The
have to
classic
say it
example
because
of
we're
horrible
audio.
troll pasta is Who Was Phone.
Who Was Phone? Okay.
Right.
Are you familiar with Who Was Phone? Okay, Robbie's
All right,
gonna
all
read
right.
Who Was Phone to you.
So, your is you are spelled UR.
You can't say all the spelling mistakes, but yes, go ahead.
You're with your honey and you're making out when the phone rings. You answer it, and the voice is, "What are you doing with my daughter?" You tell your girl, and she say, "My dad is dead." Then who was phone?
Wait, is that it?
So that's
Yes.
who was phone.
What?
And there was I was sharing a passionate kiss with my romantic interest when my cellular phone alerted me that someone wished to converse with me. The man on the phone inquired as to what I was engaging in with his daughter. Assuming this man was my romantic interest father, I explained the conversation I had to her. She informed me that her father was deceased. That is when I thought to myself, if her father isn't deceased, then who was conversing with me on the cellular phone? Then a human skeletal structure appeared. So that's like a common joke, is that, and then a skeleton popped out.
Yikes.
A few years ago, a man was walking down a road because his car broke down and he saw a car coming up behind him. So he stuck out his thumb to hitch a hike, and then the car stopped ahead of him. He ran up to the passenger side and opened the door. When he opened the door, a skeleton popped out.
I don't even have a joke for you.
I like.
What the heck?
I like it. I like the skeleton pops out. I actually haven't heard that one. That's pretty good.
So that's the thing, is that like these are just so bad that they're good. Like,
Well,
they're
those were intentionally bad. When I meant like bad, just like on accident, I was thinking like Sonic.exe, where it's like,
I haven't heard of it. So that's the thing, is the ones that are just not very good are probably not like particularly well known.
Sonic.exe is pretty big, I would think. So you have to have some. Okay, so in
Here we go, Sonic lore download.
Yeah, so in Sonic R, which is a Sonic racing game, it's a normal game, but there's a one of the characters is called Tails Doll. It's a robot version of Tails, and it's kind of creepy. And so people wrote a bunch of scary stories about it. And so I may be getting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure Sonic.exe, somebody buys like an old, like the original Sega Genesis like Sonic game, and they boot it up, and the Tails doll is in it for some reason, and then Sonic looks at the screen and screams, and then blood comes out of his eyes. And it's like played completely straight. It's not meant to be like funny at all, but it's hysterical how terrible it is. And then people made like fan games where that happens, and like you'll like run around and like Knuckles is dead. It's just stupid shit like that.
Huh. That's a corner of the internet I have not yet found.
Well, you spend too much time in real life. That's your problem.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that your problems go away if you spend all of your time in your room on the internet.
Yeah.
So, Hudson, what do you want to talk about this episode?
Well, I know that a big point we wanted to talk about as an overarching thing is, spoiler alert, Suicide Squad. So as a preemptive to talking about Suicide Squad, I wanted to know favorite and the least favorite Suicide Squad character, using whatever parameters for that you want.
Oh.
So this is the Suicide Squad, right?
The Suicide Squad. Or the Suicide Squad.
So favorite one from the new James Gunn
the
movie,
West Coast.
not just your...
And least favorite.
Okay, gotcha. Can I go first?
Yeah.
All right, I'm tied for favorite. No, you know what? I'm not. My favorite is King Shark. I love King Shark. He was hilarious. The fact that they got Sylvester Stallone to play him,
I didn't even know that.
like, that's great. Also, I'm already on a tangent. I'm sorry, but James Gunn for Marvel, he gets Vin Diesel to play Groot, right? And then he got Karen Gillan to shave her head to be Nebula. And then in Suicide Squad, he gets Sylvester Stallone to be King Shark, and then he gets Peter Capaldi to shave his head to be Dr. whatever.
The Thinker.
The Thinker, that's right. Doctor, because Doctor Who. But he got the two Scottish Doctor Who actors to shave their head and be villains. It's just kind of funny. And then he got these big name action stars to be the CGI characters. But my favorite would be King
What a
Shark.
mad lad.
Yeah, I know, right? Absolutely. Favorite would be King Shark. Least favorite, Blackguard. He didn't do anything.
Blackguard?
He was played by Pete Davidson. He's like, "Hey guys, I told you we were coming." He's the one
And
that
then he gets
ratted him
shot
out.
in the face, and
Yeah, he's the
bruised
first
Oh,
one that
him.
dies.
I didn't even know that they like counted because they like all die immediately.
Well, my
yeah,
number
spoilers, by the way. Sorry.
my number 2 is Weasel.
Oh my god, my girlfriend. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
my
know.
girlfriend saw this like I think yesterday, and she was just spamming me about how much she hated Weasel. And she was so upset in the post-credit scene where it turned out Weasel was still alive.
Weasel supremacy. Dude, I love his waddle. He's so great.
He's a horror movie villain right there.
Oh, yeah.
Like some kid's gonna just imagine being a kid and waking up to him licking your window before
Ugh.
he eats you.
The creepy bug eyes like can't stop blinking and like
God. Okay, Hudson, what was your least favorite?
I think my favorite was definitely Ratcatcher 2.
Ooh, yeah.
I was really, really hoping they'd go. I am fairly familiar because Mike and I have talked with it. There's a Marvel character known as Squirrel Girl,
Yup.
who is disgustingly powerful, defeated
Right.
Doctor Doom and most of the Marvel's big bads in like a one-off. It's not canon. And I was really hoping they'd give Ratcatcher 2 Squirrel Girl-esque powers. That's something I talked about and really wanted them to do. And then he had the balls to actually do it. He actually just had her take down Starro
Yeah, it was pretty
with
great.
these rats.
Yeah.
She's also just emotionally really interesting
Mm.
character.
Right.
She bonds with most of the characters. She's the one that really gives
Mhm.
Bloodsport, who's also a really cool character. A lot of his arc in there. I'm gonna
Mhm.
get you out alive. No, I'm gonna get you out of here alive. She almost
Mhm.
gets killed by Peacemaker, and Peacemaker clearly doesn't want to kill her. So I think there's a lot of she has a lot of a bond with a lot of the other characters. And
So that's something that we're probably going to end up talking about, which is that when we were talking about this initially when we saw the movie, it's that because we were looking for flaws because it was hard for us to find like any flaws with the movie.
Yeah, when we first got out of it, we were like, that was great. Let's
Right.
try to be critical about it.
Right.
Yeah,
And one of the things that we found was that she doesn't really have any flaws on her own that she overcomes. She mainly exists as a way to sort of like expose or like help other characters in their development. She doesn't have a ton of development on her own. It sounded like you were going to respond to that, Hudson.
well, I mean that's something we can definitely get into.
Okay.
But from my point of view, I think if she had any sort of flaw, it was the section where Peter Capaldi's character, the Thinker, is like, well, you guys are clearly not the alphas of this group. And she doesn't actually have a response other than, you want me to put a rat up your ass? And he's just like, my answer may not be what you think. And that's it. She has no counterpoint to that.
I mean, is that really?
And
is
I
that
think
really
there's
a flaw,
a big.
though?
So here's the. I think it is. I think like I don't think she considers herself a heavy hitter until the end. I think the fact that realistically she could have summoned all those rats the entire time made their mission a million times easier and taken out. Like she could have done a lot. And I think she doesn't maybe necessarily realize like her own capabilities in that sense until one of her friends is about to die.
That's a
and
really
does
good
not
point.
necessarily consider herself a heavy hitter.
I would like
That's
to
a really good point.
I would like to expound on this once we get around to it.
Because that
Yeah,
that
so
makes
we'll get-
that flashback more meaningful.
Exactly. So I do think
okay.
she has a flaw there, but we'll get to that as we sort of like get into the meat of it. My least favorite character was Savant.
Oh, really?
Actually,
Michael Rooker.
yeah, Michael Rooker's character, because I thought he wasn't used super well. I think he was used in like you think he's gonna do something cool and he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Subversive of expectations. I
Mhm.
thought that part was cool. I thought the way they did it could have been better, because I would have really liked it if he, instead of just freaking out, he has more of a, this isn't going well, strategic retreat, and him getting his head blown off is more of a jump scare.
Oh.
Like he's just, all right, I'm gone, instantly gets his head blown up.
Yeah.
Because it was just, that was my preference. I don't think the way he handled it was wrong. I think there's an argument to be made for how he handled it. Personally, didn't love it. Honorable mention to Mongal. Did not like Mongal, mostly because she looked really weird and the way she died was horrible. And I
She was just like screaming
got
on
burned
fire.
alive. That was awful.
Well, I didn't have a lot of thoughts about Mongal except that she's supposed to be way stronger than that. Yeah, she's like a Superman level villain. And she yeah. But I mean, it's fine if you nerf her for this universe, I guess. Like maybe she's half human or something. I don't know.
I don't know nearly as much about this shit as you guys do. So I didn't think that we were going to consider the sort of throwaway characters from the beginning because like
well, you could just not.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say, least favorite character. I'm gonna do one that's maybe a little controversial here. I would say my least favorite character would be either Polka Dot Man or Colonel Flag.
Ooh,
Really?
Yeah.
interesting.
Really?
Go for it.
And the reason why is because Polka Dot Man, just because he's kind of boring. He like sort of temporarily disables, I don't remember. Starro, is that its actual name?
Starro, yeah.
He temporarily like disables Starro, and that's like the only thing that he accomplishes before he gets killed. Like I guess he's sort of like a comical character, but at the same time, it's like the stuff with his mom was like funny, but also it was kind of like weird and
Uncomfy
just,
for
like,
sure.
Ugh.
Oh yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
When she's really big and like
Right.
crushing the building, it was like,
I didn't. Yeah.
I found it funny every time, but
it was funny. It was really funny, but it was also like, I don't know. Just I don't think that he had to pretend that the gigantic monster was his mom in order to want to like, kill it. But it was just kind of strange. It seemed like again, like he was only there to complement like, Bloodsport's character development. For Colonel Flag, the reason is because people often talk about sort of like the increased like diversity of characters in like popular Hollywood movies in recent years. And people say that, well, if a character is not a white male, that they have to be like a Mary Sue, or they have to be like, perfect in some way. And Colonel Flag is like a white male who's also just kind of a blank slate and doesn't really like, he has this kind of like, he's kind of funny at times, and he has this interesting relationship with Harley Quinn, but his whole character is, and I haven't seen the original Suicide Squad, so I don't know like what character development he gets in that one, but he's just kind of
he was a stiff. He was
okay, so he's just like, I'm big army man. I do big army man things. And then when he finds out that the US government did a bad thing, he's like, oh, I'm not going to be a puppet anymore. And then he fights Peacemaker and dies. And it's like, he's entertaining to like watch him fight and stuff, but he's just kind of like your standard army man trope. And so with the backdrop of all of these other really interesting characters, he was just kind of like, just kind of lackluster. It's like sort of my least favorite instead of like the worst one, because I don't really think that there were a whole lot of bad characters in this movie.
Right. Who's your favorite?
My favorite,
No way.
okay, he was really great. So that's the thing, is it's hard to pick like a fit because they were all so good. I thought Harley Quinn was really, really entertaining. Bloodsport was really good. Ratcatcher 2 was great too. I think it's almost like a three-way tie between those three like sort of main characters. My favorite's probably Bloodsport. If I'm being honest with myself, it's probably Bloodsport. Idris Elba does just a great job.
One thing I've seen no one talk about is how fucking cool the one scene is. It's comedy that immediately becomes cool when the floors are falling out underneath him. because
Oh, yeah.
they
Boom.
keep breaking and it's like funny. It's like haha, he keeps surviving. And then when he lands right in front of Peacemaker, you're like, oh, that's such a cool entrance. Oh my god.
Dude, I thought I saw that in the trailer and was like, he fell. Why was that so cool? But the scene of like, oh, he's about to shoot the one person. You do not want to catch Bloodsport seeing you about to shoot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was
Smaller bullets.
That was sick. And I like the
That was a
callback
good
to
that was a
smaller
great callback.
Yeah.
There's a lot of foreshadowing there. I guess getting more into the nitty-gritty of talking about some of the characters then. So I think the point about Rick Flag is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you watch the movie and you were like, I thought he was a typical army man, I think that's fair. I don't think that's necessarily like incorrect, but I interpreted the movie differently based on how I was like analyzing some of the earlier things. To me, Rick Flag had seemed like he had been on the Suicide Squad for a while, and it seemed like he'd been in the military for a while because apparently he knew Bloodsport too. So I got more of he's getting really fucking tired.
I see.
Of doing the dirty work.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened is I think he was supposed to die. He was put on the Suicide Squad where everyone got killed. Amanda Waller set him up to die. And then in the sequence where she's like, oh, he's been kidnapped, go rescue him. The time she told it would have been after she would already have had the information that he got captured and then rescued.
Oh,
like,
true.
She knew he had been captured. She told the people to rescue him from the, like, more or less from the rebels.
Yeah.
Because she didn't actually want the rebel. Like, she wanted them to take out the rebels.
Yeah. Actually, you know what?
And then
You're
Peacemaker from the beginning was in there. So my interpretation was that he was getting tired of it. There's a sequence apparently in the deleted scenes where he makes fun of Waller's shirt.
Oh, okay.
Which is just an interesting, like, he's kind of making fun of Waller in, like, in this weird, like, I'm tired of your shit. He just, like, is tired of dealing with that. And she's a little insane.
Yeah.
She is, yeah. I like that.
Which is why I would have liked the no hesitation kill Savant.
I think...
And... Go ahead.
I think if she no hesitation killed Savant, it would have maybe given away how evil she is by the end. Like, you kind of need to build up to that because she's so my understanding of the Suicide Squad, not just from the two movies, but like from the comics, and there's been animated movies and stuff, is their whole deal is Amanda Waller is someone who wants what is generally good, and she'll do underhanded things to make it happen, and that's why she puts the squad together. Rick Flag is like this Captain America type guy. He's not a super soldier, but like he's a really good guy. His name is
Flag.
Yeah, and his whole shtick is that like he is the one that bridges the gap between the two.
I see.
So like he'll always do the right thing, but he understands the members of the team, and like and that's what makes him likable and relatable.
Okay.
Like he's also, I mean, he's just like a chill dude. Like he was just vibing with like the rebels, you know, when they killed everybody.
Yeah, so you know what, you've convinced me. I think the main thing I just wanted to point out is that he is an example of he's a white male example of a character that doesn't really have any discernible flaws. And Ratcatcher 2 falls under this category, except she's not a white male, but
well, I mean, if you want to come at it from that angle, by the end of the movie, all of the white male members of the squad are dead. Unless you count Nanawe.
Yeah. He's a great white male.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's a good one. I did personally think, like, I mean, again, I thought Ratcatcher was, her main flaw was that she underestimated herself. I do think that's a flaw. I do think that's a fairly severe flaw. I think she could have maybe avoided a lot of stuff. I'm not saying like, oh, she should have done this, and this. I just don't think she considers herself much of a heavy hitter. And if she did, I think like her actions would have been a little different. I think that was more of a last resort kind of thing.
I didn't pick up on that at all. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think maybe that was tainted because you said yourself, you were going into this movie hoping she would be Squirrel Girl-esque, right? I didn't have that thought at all. So nothing in my head was
yeah.
like, how strong is she gonna be? I was just like, what is her deal?
Yeah.
And I think when we were discussing this after we saw it, we were like, okay, what were the flaws? The two I think we agreed on, and we obviously can talk about this: Ratcatcher 2 and then Harley Quinn. They don't really have arcs, as far as I can tell.
So I said that Harley Quinn doesn't really need an arc because she just kind of does her thing, you know?
Yeah, and she already had one in Birds of Prey. I think the closest we get is a really cool monologue. I liked the monologue after she shoots the guy.
I did too.
Yeah, that
and
was
it's
a good
like
monologue.
it shows, I think, in a cool way that you can still get over a relationship. So the Birds of Prey is about her getting over the relationship. I haven't seen it. I think the fact that she's like over the relationship and she's quote unquote emancipated, she still has a flaw where she feels the need to kill guys with red flags because she thinks they will never stop coming after her.
I don't
That's
think
whack.
I don't think that she thinks it through that much.
She said that. She literally said that. That's her monologue. It's I can't like just let you go because if that happens, they come in and they kill your dogs and they go after people you care about, and you can't just leave them alive.
Is that really a flaw though?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a character flaw.
At no point did I think that they were unflawed human beings. It was just that they didn't have arcs. So I think, this is my personal opinion, I think there might be some discussion about this, but generally it is agreed upon that the purpose of a story is that your characters at the beginning and the end are supposed to change. Like that's kind of there is such a thing as a flat character arc where you exist purely to change the characters around you, but that's usually frowned upon.
Yeah, that's not generally a good thing. Well, what I was gonna say is that's what I was gonna get to. That is I guess that sort of invites discussion on the question of when you have a movie with so many characters and so many moving parts.
Yeah, like
does every character need to have like a definite arc? And I think that you could say, like, for example, like, Colonel Flag or Ratcatcher 2, like, is it just enough for them to be sort of just interesting people that affect the people around them,
I think everybody needs
for a movie.
I think everybody needs to change somewhat.
Well, I think that they should change at some point, but if their characters
think
sort of
everyone
across
needs to
movies,
change.
I don't know.
I think there's a level to being grounded and changing the people around you that matters.
If you're a protagonist,
I think like,
you know what?
Yeah, but there wasn't like a set protagonist.
No, but there are protagonists.
And because Bloodsport. Yeah, because I think, but Bloodsport is the main protagonist, and I think the ways that you see the ways in which Ratcatcher has value, where you may not have seen it earlier. I think that's a big point of Ratcatcher. Maybe even not for herself, but for the people around her, like seeing that, like, she as a character has a lot of value, both with respect to the other characters and in her own right. The fact that they talk about how she's like, Peacemaker makes fun of the fact that she's like a millennial who sleeps and is naive. And like the fact that she's naive, I think does come to be important with her relationship with like seeing Bloodsport as a good guy is a big part of the reason why he's willing to turn around like her disappointment that he doesn't do it and like him being like, shit. All right. I think that's important.
Counterexample, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy is another James Gunn movie with, more than a couple main characters. Every single one of them, except for Groot, who doesn't really count.
No, he changes too.
How does Groot? Well, Groot does like the "We Are Groot" thing.
Yeah.
Which I guess if you have a character that only says one thing, then I guess that counts as a change.
Well, yeah. Nanaue is the same in this movie. Like his change is very minimal, but it's okay because the character's but all of them change. Yeah.
So Guardians of the Galaxy, every character's fleshed out and has a decision that they have to make that is important, that shows that they've grown over the events of the movie. And so, yeah, I guess that's a flaw of this movie, that you don't have the same thing, because I mean, the movies are both, similar length. You both have, a similar number of characters. I guess you have more in this, but still the movie was long enough.
Your change does not have to be.
Yeah.
Like I would
Also, why does every character need to change?
That's the point of a story. Like
why?
That is the point of I mean, I could recite to you a Hero with 1,000 Faces.
He's on a big Hero with 1,000 Faces kick right now.
I'm reading it's about the motto myth. We don't need to get totally into that, but basically, that is how story structure works. Your characters are supposed to start here, go through some bullshit, and then come back changed. That's how it all character arcs work. That's what is most satisfying. With Ratcatcher 2, so she has that flashback at the end with her father, right? And I think that's a beautiful moment, and I think it's a beautiful thing that he says, but it's more impactful if that is answering some question she had earlier in the movie.
Well, that's why Hudson's saying that, like, her realizing that she can, that's why it makes that flashback more impactful, because that's when she remembers that she realizes.
It would if it was portrayed earlier in the movie that she thought of herself as weak or useless. I don't think it was. I never got that. I could have missed it. I've only seen the movie once.
What about when they're in the van?
Okay.
I don't remember. Hudson's the one with the fucking, like, eidetic movie memory. What did they talk about in the van? She had that whole monologue talking about her father and stuff, but
She was just explaining, like,
Oh yeah, it's just
oh, okay. I was gonna say she was just explaining, like, how she got the rat catcher thingy, how she got to America, how she lost her father. Like, I don't think any of it was about, like, here's my personal flaw or something I feel really bad about. Well, it's just how I got to America and how I got into prison.
All right, so you can accuse me of reading in between the lines too much, but think about the context of those two sort of like flashbacks into her past. The first one, the context is like the rat thing is a way that we survived at the bottom of society. We used, like, the rats to keep us warm and stuff, and then we came to America, and my father eventually, succumbed to his addiction. And so the whole context is that this is a way that we survived. This is, like, just kind of like a cool thing that my father invented that allowed us to, like, survive at the bottom of society. At the end, it's like, rats fucking everywhere. I'm super powerful now.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe it's not said explicitly, but I feel like maybe there's sort of like an implication with the context of those two flashbacks.
I would be fine with that if the rats are the lowest of us, if they have meaning all of us do, was something she heard in the present, but that's also in her past. So the rat catcher we see wake up at the beginning of the movie and the one that walks away at the end of the movie knew all the same stuff and had all the same memories. Throughout the whole film, she's the one espousing wisdom. That was the point I was going to say. She changes Bloodsport, right? Like, her kindness changes him. It would be, and that's satisfying, right? Like, you enjoy watching that as a viewer. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
It's even more satisfying if somehow Bloodsport would have changed her. And they grew.
I thought he did.
I don't think he did. See, there's no point in the movie where he says something or teaches her something or even explains something and she that she was doing differently before. This is also, I just want to be clear, this is all minor. I really like the movie.
Yeah, she sees Bloodsport as her father figure at a point in the movie, correct? Like, she has a father figure that she did not save, could not save, etc. The line when the character to me changes is when he says, "I'm gonna get you out of here alive," and she turns to him after seeing, like, his vulnerability as a character. Like, she is fine with letting the other characters do a lot of the heavy lifting. There's a section where she, like, sees him talk about, like, oh my gosh. So it's I'm reading into this pretty heavily, but, like, there's a section where he talks about how he's scared shitless of rats, and she's talking about her father. And there's a sequence when, like, her father is dying, and she, like, goes to put her hand on him, and then takes her hand off and, like, can't as he's dying. It was this weird, interesting sequence that I thought was cool, where she, like, does that. This is this weird thing, right? She moves to put her hand on him and doesn't. And, like, when the moment he's like, "I'm gonna get you out of here alive," and she's like, "No, I'm going to get you out of here alive," I thought is a big, like, she's more taking, like, that responsibility of, like, protecting when she didn't do that with her father. And so the sequence where he is terrified and she, like, puts her hand on him as the rats are coming through, I read that as enough change. I don't think Ratcatcher in the original does that. And, like, I don't think the Ratcatcher at the beginning does that. I think it's a very small change. I think
think about it this way. Think about it this way. What is her motivation in the beginning of the movie? She doesn't really have any motivation. She's just doing this mission just because. I think that maybe she's just kind of okay with dying, and she's, in prison for the rest of her life or whatever, and she doesn't really care. she sleeps while Sharkman is about to eat her. She doesn't really care.
I was just gonna bring that up.
And so she goes from that and not really caring and just kind of being okay if she gets eaten or whatever, to understanding her potential and using it to save the day at the end of the movie.
So when Nawe picks her up, when King Shark picks her up and is gonna eat her, and she wakes up, she immediately turns to him and shows him kindness. And like she's not scared of him at all.
No, she doesn't.
She does.
That's actually not what happens. She said, "You wouldn't eat me," and he says, "Hungry," and she says, "You bastard," and summons a bunch of rats to kill the guy. And then he sits down and explains that he has no
Okay,
friends.
so if she summons a bunch of rats, then she knows that she's powerful, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So
I don't think that her character development was done as well as it could have been.
that's my point. I
Yeah.
think there's like a tiny inkling of something there that could have been tweaked. And
It's implied. You have to go digging for it.
Yeah,
you know?
that's exactly.
I
it
just
is.
really liked the subtlety of it, because I really don't like in movies when they just when they are talking on the bus, for example, they're really kind of ramming character development.
Right.
On you. I like just watching characters do their thing without any explicit character development and kind of filling in the lines on your own. I really liked that. I think the subtlety of it is very fun.
Okay, let me put.
I think there could have been ways they could have made it more obvious, and there could have been ways in which they make it more obvious and it's probably better. Like if they do have even one sequence where she's like, is more visibly jarred when the Thinker's like, "You're not the alpha of the group," and she's like, yeah, I'm not. I don't know what I'm doing." That would have been like, there's ways they could have made it better. I wouldn't disagree with that. There's ways they
Yeah,
can make
that's
I'm the
that's
Sigma of the group.
So.
The Sigma of the group would be Weasel. Weasel's the Sigma male. But to give an
Yeah.
example of it done well, I think, and this is actually overstated and I really like it. Beginning of the movie, Bloodsport sees his daughter and he's like, "Fuck you!" He's yelling at her. "Fuck you."
I love
And then
that
at the
scene.
end of the
Holy
movie,
shit.
he now has this adoptive daughter. He believes that there's something good in him and he can be a father figure. And you could take out the bus scene in the middle, it would still work. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm just saying there should have been something setting up Ratcatcher 2 so that line of the flashback of her father hits harder. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's fair.
Speaking of which,
Yeah, I it hit me pretty hard because I
still
felt
really
like I'd
liked it.
established that because
Mhm.
I was paying a lot of attention. I do also consider Bloodsport like the main character and the one who needs the most development,
right.
and not necessarily that like everyone else needs development. Because sometimes like the other characters even being relatively static, it's more around helping him develop. You know, like I think he's the character that needs the change. I don't know if every other character needs the change.
Well, he should change the most. He is like the Star-Lord
Mhm.
of the group. He's supposed to be like the main
Yeah.
character, but all of them probably should. This got more philosophical than I thought it would. I thought most of the dick jokes were landed pretty well in the Suicide Squad. I like when Peacemaker.
Who knows why madmen do what they do?
Who knows why Mad Men do
Oh, I
what they
love
do?
that line. Why would someone put penises on the
Who knows why
beach?
Mad Men do what they do? Did that twist get you guys? I didn't expect him to be evil or like the villain.
I think the interesting twist is like he's
not really
kind
evil.
of evil the whole time. He does a lot of bad stuff, and like I think that moment is more you realizing, oh wait a minute, when it's not funny, it's actually kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Like Peacemaker's
Well-
super messed up. It's been presented as funny up until
Mhm.
now, but
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
yikes.
Is that when Bloodsport and Peacemaker are like trying to outkill each other when they're unknowingly killing all of the rebels. so that was an interesting thing. Is like at the beginning of the movie, it's like, what's the boss lady's name?
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller. She's like, if this mission, I wouldn't do what I do if this mission wasn't, more important than you can possibly comprehend. And she's, threatening to use the justice system to like, to punish his daughter, to blackmail him to join this mission. And then I'm like, that's really sus. And then she's talking about this like, this regime that ruled with an iron fist on this, random,
Corto
Latin America.
Maltese.
Right. But they were really friendly to the United States, but then they got toppled by a reactionary government that's hostile to the United States. And so now we need to do mission things. I thought, like, are they going to really like play this straight? Like, this seems like it's kind of transparently like, like, I don't know if like the point of Suicide Squad movies is that they're not really the good guys, even when they're supposedly working for the good guys. But if you think about it, if you think about sort of like the idea of America as certain perceptions of America, I suppose. You have Peacemaker, which is this sort of like comedic, like jingoist, like freedom, I'm gonna create peace, and I don't care how many people I have to kill
women
in order
and children
to make peace. Yeah. And so when they are, killing all of those people at the rebel camp, and you don't know that they're just kind of nameless baddies, and so you don't really care until you realize who they were. And then when you find out, when you have that, big reveal at the climax of the movie, Peacemaker is kind of the same character, except now the audience's perception has changed.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what happened. What I found interesting about that is, like, Peacemaker is clearly the antagonist at that point, right? And you're supposed to root against him. And obviously Amanda Waller is like really crazy in this movie and over the top. But I was thinking there was a period of time where I'm like, am I rooting for Rick Flag right now? Like, I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's wants to do the moral right thing, but Peacemaker also has the point. Like, if this gets out, it will cause an international incident.
Right.
Which is bad, right?
Well, is it bad? Because the international incident is people realizing that America did some fucked up shit.
Well, yeah.
Is that a bad thing that people find out the truth?
If it causes war, probably.
Well, I mean, would that be a like would you rather have it that just nobody finds out?
I don't know.
It's an honest debate that you can have.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say.
The fact that you can think about
yes,
it.
Exactly.
What I was gonna say. What I was gonna
you know?
say is that Peacemaker is a certain sort of view of America, I suppose. Waller's is another view of America as this like really vindictive, like clandestine, using the CIA to do shady shit, and then Flag is just sort of like caught in between in this sort of like state of disillusionment in the end when he decides that he's going to he decides that he's gonna release the information about Project Starfish. I think that's interesting. That I think if you look at it that way, they sort of like represent like different sort of perspectives.
Well, yeah, a lot of this movie was painted with like America, fuck
especially considering certain current events that have happened shortly before the recording of this podcast.
Yeah. Like in the beginning when they have the squad that gets murdered and they're in front of the huge US flag and it's like, oh, there's gonna be opinions in this movie presented. My only point was that when they were fighting, I was like, wait, who am I rooting for here? I think I want to root for Flag, but I
was totally rooting for Flag.
I kind of get where Peacemaker's coming from. Like, I know he's being a dick about it.
Well, Peacemaker represents a position like a lot of people will unironically say something that basically amounts to, I will do anything to get peace, and I don't care how many women and children I have to murder in order to get that.
Okay.
That's like a real thing.
I'm saying that you don't have to have that to necessarily agree with him in that one scene. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just
this specifically for the fight over the drive.
Right. Because if that drive gets out and it causes war between America and China and 1 million people die, yeah, maybe it shouldn't happen. I don't know.
It's one of those things where, like, in Civil War, for example, the fact that there's a really interesting, and they spend a lot of time explaining it after the events of Civil War. One of it was an analysis, and you can say what you want about this analysis, that one of the people made is, it's very difficult not to let the fact that Captain America is such a good guy and Iron Man's kind of a dick distract you from the fact that Iron Man's probably right. And that was I think an interesting, like, whether or not you agree with who was right in that scenario, I do think the fact that, like, Rick Flag is a much more likable person and Peacemaker is not is more the reason why I was always rooting for Rick Flag. I was rooting for Rick Flag as a person.
I don't think Iron Man is probably
Civil War is
right,
a little different because
I don't think Iron Man is probably right. I would disagree with that.
I don't necessarily think Iron Man's right.
I get
either,
what you're saying, yeah.
But I think that type of analysis. I don't necessarily agree with the analysis, but like the fact that I never was rooting for Peacemaker because I wasn't really thinking of the fight as like a fight for those two types of ideologies, which is a super interesting way to think about it. I was just thinking I want Rick Flag to live and I don't want
that's the thing is it's like I thought that it was really interesting the way that they handled it, and I also wasn't super satisfied with we're going to keep it secret in exchange for their freedom. Which it's like, I'm glad that they have their freedom, but also it's like, a lot of people died who are not gonna, find out the truth about why they died.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think you can talk, but it's just like, I think a lot of people watch that and they're like, man, that would be really fucked up if America did something like that. Well,
yeah. I think the thing is, like, a lot of people died. And even Starro got that one line at the end. Like, I was content floating through space and watching the stars. It's like, damn. But Starro's dead. A lot of people in Corto Maltese died. A lot more people would have died if Starro was still around.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely like a bittersweet ending.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bittersweet movie called Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Yeah, like the movie is definitely like supposed to be morally ambiguous. I think that's definitely the idea.
I think the worst part of the movie is that Will Smith didn't show up and say, "What are we? Some kind of Suicide Squad?" All right.
Yeah.
So we've all rated the Suicide Squad. We really need to learn how to end these things.
Yeah.
On three, everybody name your favorite deli meat. 1, 2, 3. Salami.
Smoked ham.
Hudson, you. All right, got it. Don't do drugs, kids.
It's the end because you're hearing this song, so like and subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Or click this vid if your clicking fingers itching. Thanks so much for giving us a listen.
Oh, yeah. One hop this time.